Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Are You Screening podcast. I'm your host, RUScreening.com's own Mark Eastman. And with me, as always, is co host extraordinaire Shane Leonard.
Hello.
Man, suddenly I started talking. I feel like there's something in my mouth. I
Yeah,
got like a
right.
lot of cotton in my mouth. Also. This week, we're going to actually go back to lists as we, said we were. So it's the worst list.
Right.
But we are going to actually try and throw in a couple of movies real quick, which I think should be okay,
Yeah.
because they're lesser things,
Ooh,
sort of, right? They're
jeez.
not like big Hollywood blockbuster
Spoiler alert there.
things.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I go. They're like
Um,
direct to Netflix.
they're both direct
Yeah.
to Netflix. So it's Damsel and Spaceman, and it's
Actually, both Netflix
yeah, they are.
by accident.
They're both Netflix, and it's Damsel is new. What's her name?
Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, Millie Bobby Brown, and it's the Autumn.
Sandler.
Yeah, man, I can't
Let's just
think
do
of-
that.
can't
We'll
believe
do
I
half
that
sentences all day.
Yeah, Spaceman. So, Spaceman's actually kind of interesting, just in the fact that for me, it kind of was just suddenly there, like until like maybe 10 days before it came out
Yeah,
or
I didn't know.
something. I hadn't really heard hardly anything about it. I
Yep.
mean, I heard when they started filming or, stuff like that, like a long time ago, I
Yeah.
heard some stuff about it.
Yep.
But as far as promoting it at all or
And
anything,
coming release and get ready.
yeah, it's
2
just like,
weeks.
damn, this
Like
is out.
here it is.
Like Netflix for some things is just relying enough on, I think they're just like, we can just put it on
Yeah.
just,
Right.
the stuff that releases directly to Netflix or whatever and isn't going to be in the theater at all anyway.
Right.
I don't know. They're just partially kind of committed to this. I mean, maybe I wasn't watching the right things on Netflix so that it was,
It wasn't a suggested offer like
yeah, or,
coming soon or
I don't know. Anyway, it was
yeah.
really weird how little, I mean, it's Adam Sandler, even when he makes, you know, really low
Well,
budget things,
right.
you hear about
You
him
think of Adam
'cause
Sandler, not you, but one thinks of Adam Sandler in a couple different ways, right? It's Happy Gilmore, or it's maybe the Meyerowitz trilogy, right? Or Uncut Gems. And you have to remember, like, I mean, there's also the murder mystery version of Adam Sandler, which is
right.
isn't that why he has like this big Netflix deal now? Like
Yeah.
some special make 5 or 8 films for us and we'll give you everything,
Yeah, it's funny because, just recently,
which is good for
uh
him.
yeah, not that we need to go on a giant Adam Sandler tangent, but, there was just recently, the top money-making actors of 2023,
Yeah,
and Adam Sandler's number 1,
right.
and, and people are, this is all, like, on social media, people are, like, going crazy about the people who Tom Cruise only got this and so only got that. And
Right.
then finally someone's like, look, Tom Cruise had 1 movie. Adam Sandler had 8.
Right.
Like
Let's have some
this
perspective here.
year he
Yeah,
was in
right.
it's not even hyperbole. He was in like 7
Right.
or 8 movies this year that
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's hard to
Well, just
compare apples to oranges there.
it's sort of weird because I wanted to know one thing about Spaceman, so I looked up Sandler's Wikipedia page, and it's got his discography and everything else, and there's a special section for his filmography, and I started flipping through, and early in his career, it's just 1 movie every year or 2, and
Yeah.
then suddenly, like the last several years, it's 3 or 4, and I guess you can write off like, "All right, so I was in Hotel Transylvania 3 and 4, and all I had to do was show up and do, the booth reading."
Right.
That still work,
Right.
but he's now not producing,
But
but,
you
like,
still have to
acting
be
in
there,
3 or 4
right?
films a year for the
Yeah.
last many, many, many years. Just like, "Man, is this dude silently the hardest working man in show business?" I don't know,
Well,
but
some of them are, the weird thing with him, and again, not that this is a show, this is not our episode of him, but
turn it into
the
one.
weird thing about him is that he's like spaces his calendar in
Yeah,
like a very like special way, and he'll
Yeah.
make some, uncut gems
Yep.
or whatever. But then, he throws in, I mean, I don't know. People don't think about this when they're not me, I guess. But,
Yeah.
like a lot of these movies are like a month. I mean,
Yeah.
his like goofball movies that he makes,
Grown
like,
ups, let's all go to Hawaii
yeah,
for 3
right.
weeks, guys,
Yeah.
and
That
we'll shoot every day until noon, and then maybe a little in the evening, and then we'll play basketball.
all right. So
Who
we have
doesn't love
to
that life?
actually cover these movies at some point. So let's switch gears and start with Damsel though.
Okay.
So Damsel is first of all, it's a movie that if you've heard anything about it's getting like really hacked to bits
I haven't heard
online.
anything. It's getting beaten up.
It's
It's easy to pick on it.
it's sort of, I don't know if you looked it up on something like Metacritic,
Actually, I will do that. I'm sort
which
of
I like
curious.
better than Rotten Tomatoes for those who
Yep.
are only joining us on video
Me too.
and are new to us. But anyway, it's I think critically it's not doing too terribly,
Let
but
me
it's not
see.
doing real good.
Yeah, I'm curious.
But like social media and like online, lots of people, it is really getting like harshly looked at. And I think that's crazy and unfair. But anyway, it's
Wow. Yeah, that's at 46, and I wouldn't have thought it's pretty close to the user score too, which is 4.3. Man, that seems harsher than it should be, I think.
it's getting, I think, the
Yeah,
if you look at a summation like Metacritic of critical responses
yeah,
and don't read reviews, it's getting really harsh
yeah.
noise going on. So if you don't know a lot about it, and
Oh, that's interesting.
that might be all you know about it, is that everyone's
Right,
bagging on it and saying
right.
it's bad. So, but it's Millie Bobby Brown, and it is just like you would expect with the name Damsel.
Right.
It's a movie that is, it's like a fairy tale
Yeah.
type story, basically. And uh, she, she is a princess of like the wrong side of the tracks kingdom
Yeah, right.
where they don't have anything or whatever.
Yeah.
And she gets this proposal to go marry this guy, and then she gets like sacrificed to the dragon, and hilarity ensues, right?
Right.
And she's got to try and live through that and everything, right? Kind of whatever, classic fairy tale kind of thing.
Right.
Anyway, so without going on and on yet, because we have to get through these really quick,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Right.
I gave this one an 8
Wow.
because I loved it actually.
Yeah.
And for all of, and I'm not going to go all the way into anything either because we'll let you give your score, but
Wow. 8 is
uh
huge.
it kind of is. But
Good for you.
the thing that I will say, just real quickly and let you take over and give your score and everything, is all of the negative reviews that I've seen of this movie are complete garbage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every review that I've looked at on this, because then I got really interested because
Right.
it was like so bad. So I read a lot, and they are all garbage. They are basically the equivalent of, somebody watching the never ending story and going, what is this unbelievable bullshit that's happening in this?
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
what?
Right.
I didn't read anything that said any like realistic criticism of the movie.
Yeah.
Like the acting's all horrible, which it is not, or the whatever, the story's stupid,
Yeah.
everything, some actual criticism of the movie. They all were like, they were all reviews looking at this movie as though it was like, this is Shakespeare's worst,
Right.
or
This has been
it's
billed
like,
as the next Citizen
yeah,
Kane. Like this is going to change your mind.
Totally like a younger audience. It is like really like right in. I mean, you can think of, you know, 10 years ago, you could have like 5 or 6 examples, or 20
Yeah.
years ago. And, because it's got like the dragon and everything, I
Right.
just think of the Never Ending Story, but
Sure.
there's tons of like these are for younger people.
Right.
This is like a younger audience story. And just because like Millie Bobby Brown is in it and she does Stranger Things or
Right.
something. I don't know what it is exactly. And Robin Wright's in it,
Yep.
and
Ray Winstone, Angela Bassett.
yeah,
Like
there are like serious
you start
people
looking
in
at the
it,
credit
right?
line and
Yeah,
you're like, whoa.
yeah, there are a bunch of serious people in it and
Yeah.
big names, and so somehow that translates into we can't make a movie that's for a younger audience. Like
Right.
everything about this movie is, for like
Yeah.
tweens or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a fun, cool, whatever. Anyway, like I said, I won't keep going
No,
on
it's
'cause
fine. When we were growing up, there was a window, and again, this was before they made PG-13. PG rating could cover an awful lot of stuff.
yeah,
You would get something like really like the Goonies-ish, or you could get something like, I mean, Pete's Dragon is G, but you could get something like the old Dabney Coleman um, Cloak and Dagger film, which was just
right,
nowadays would just run on ABC Family, and you would never really see it in a theater, but they released things that were in that way. And in this way, I was thinking about like what do I really want to say about Damsel except that on some level, and this is going to be really numb or 2% insightful, and I accept that it could be really numb. When I started watching
like a
this,
lot of prelude.
no, this is big. It's not big. I started watching this and I went, this is the most appropriate Millie Bobby Brown film that Millie should do right now for Netflix. Like, it's not the Enola Holmes franchise. This is absolutely in her, not her skill set, but in her range for demographic production right now. Like, do this film
Right.
because you'll do something else later and there'll be another season of Stranger Things and then you'll do another Enola film. And as you're charting your production, this one fits. It's not necessarily for me, and I understood that while watching it, and the only criticism I have, by way of circling around to saying, I gave it a 6.5, and I still had fun with it. I don't really it's weird to take a swipe at it because it's really just not for me. It's for kids who haven't seen the films that this is sort of derivative of.
Right.
Maybe even a kid that watches this hasn't even seen Shrek yet, and it's got some Shrek vibes, though not exactly similar, just because there's a dragon and a princess and a curse. I mean, you could say that about tons of stories because that's a genre.
Right.
She's good in it. Ray Winstone is good in it. Angela Bassett is good in it. Robin Wright twirls her mustache just the right amount. The dragon looks good. The movie itself, aesthetically, is beautiful looking. Like, it's really, even the beginning when you see the setup and the king's arm, or at least the army is in trying to attack the dragon and stuff. And I'm just looking at it. I'm like, oh, this is gorgeous looking.
Yeah.
I guess if I only have complaint that it's not new and it seemed sort of childish, you have to understand, like, it's not for me.
Right.
And it's certainly not new because I've seen a lot of films and read a lot of books. But where is that criticism really? It is for someone who is maybe watching these films a little too early at 6 to 8, or maybe at the right age of 11 to 13. This is fun.
Yeah.
This is a good time. And it's an easy watch because she's good. If one had to address those things, she's a strong female character in a film that is fighting to save other women against, believable obstructions, and try not to give away too many weird plot holes and things, but it's not really a whole bunch to it. It's just exciting and fun and disposable, but
Right.
memorably disposable. Like, I don't know, maybe someone would eventually grow up and be like, the way we talk about Cloak and Dagger, they're going to be like, oh, remember Damsel? Maybe that'll stick with them. I don't think it's got Goonies level to stick with somebody. There's nothing wrong with the movie,
Right. Right.
except it is easy to take a
I
swing
mean,
at.
Goonies is
That's
another.
it.
Yeah, Goonies is another like good example. Like,
Sure. I mean, go
this,
watch.
This is like, imagine somebody's reviewing Goonies and going, like,
You kidding me?
how
How do
dumb
they do
and
this? And
unrealistic
Chunk is a
are all
character.
these
Are you
things?
kidding me?
Right.
I mean, but again, if really my only criticism is it was just a little young for me and it was a little too saccharine and a little, it has the thing that nailed it for me that I understand why people might take an easy swing at there are so many movies when you start watching films, you'll see this repetitively where the main character has the antagonist trapped or defeated, and they're holding a weapon over them, and they are like wrestling with this notion of do I kill you? Do I vanquish you? Do I lose my soul? Do I and they bring the weapon down and it makes a thud and everyone goes and it pans back and they just missed
Yeah,
on
and
purpose.
right.
That is such a trope, and it's in every film that is in this age demographic, and it is in this
Yeah.
film. And you
And
watch it and you're like, come on.
and
But
it's one of those things. Well,
it's for the kids who have never seen that ever before, and they're like,
correct.
what? You know, and it has that impact. And you had to start somewhere because when we saw it when we were younger, it wasn't the first time then either.
Right.
So I'm bloviating a bit to just say, shut up, give the film a break. It's actually very fun.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
terribly
all right.
original, but fun.
No, but still, it's kind of like, like I said, I don't have to keep like saying the same thing, but I mean, it, I don't know, go online, read some reviews. A lot of them were kind of
I had
like,
no idea it was that bad.
a lot of them kind of were like somebody, you know, has never read a fairy tale before and then has to like read a bedtime story to their kid and comes away pissed.
Right.
It's like,
Right. Like, what do you
what is
expect?
this
Also,
trash
yeah,
that
I
I'm
mean,
supposed to be?
if somebody wanted to come at it and say, this character wouldn't do this character wouldn't do that. All right, there's a discussion there, an argument.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
really, it's a fairy tale and it's fun and it's beautiful looking and it's pretty well paced. It moves along at a
Yeah.
pretty good move. And everyone seems to be enjoying there. Sometimes you see people like if Ray Winstone didn't want to be there, he'd deliver his lines, but you'd be able to tell.
Right.
He didn't look like he was having the best time, but he was there. Angela Bassett is having fun.
I think everybody in the movie seemed really weirdly behind it.
Yeah.
Actually watching it.
Yeah.
And there are, especially, if you watch like 100 movies a year or more,
Yeah.
you can start to see through
you suss out these things.
Yeah, you can see through the screen into, people's eyes and go, man,
they did not.
They
They did not make this
or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
this is fun and
yeah,
fun.
no, for the right audience, that
Yeah.
is who should watch it anyway.
Right.
It's I thought it was great. I feel like if this movie actually had been given a fair shot, and enough people see it, it could easily be one of those, like,
Yeah, I do too.
like the right age watching the movie,
Yeah.
could grow up with this movie and think it was really cool. And I wish that it had also been promoted more, just like Spaceman, like that.
Right.
It was a bit of a bigger deal. Anyway,
I don't think anybody should be ashamed of having this on their resume, though.
no,
Not at all. When I was flipping through quick negative reviews, someone was just like, "I can't believe so and so did this," and I went, "What? Like, did you just watch the trailer? Remember that? I don't remember the film. I know we're going to move on. I don't remember the film, but I remember a couple years ago we kept bringing up, and you brought it up, where somebody's review, and we were doing a critic takedown.
Yeah,
we read the review, and we were both like, "That dude didn't see the movie." Like, that dude just saw the trailer, and the trailer isn't even indicative of the film. Like, sometimes
I wish I could remember what that was, and we should,
because it was harsh.
Should start doing that again,
we should
actually, because
it's fun.
That was actually pretty fun.
Anyway, sorry,
and probably it feels very YouTube audience.
It might be. Think of all the fun things that we could put here,
But actually, I remember that, and it was there was something about, like, if you watch the trailer and then watch the movie, you didn't actually have a real good idea of the movie from watching the trailer,
because the trailer
we used to
deceived
do
you.
like the trailer reviews.
Love the trailer reviews. I want those more.
And because the trailer was a little bit misleading.
Yeah.
And then I found this review and it was like, oh,
I might be mistaken this, and I know we're going to move on, but I'm pretty sure there was a line in the trailer that wasn't in the movie, and the critic was like,
maybe,
they said something like that, and we were like,
yeah,
you fake.
All right.
Right. Spaceman?
So moving on to Spaceman. Yeah, Adam Sandler, and this is a movie where so if you don't know the movie and haven't seen trailers of it, which would not be at all surprising, right? He is an astronaut, and this is based on a book. And it is I guess, I don't know, Czechoslovakian.
Yeah, I think so, because it's Czech everything in
Because
there.
everyone is
Yeah.
from the Czech Republic or whatever. And I assume we're just lifting that. And he is on a spaceship going like just past
To the
Jupiter
yeah,
to where some weird
dust.
space anomaly
Yeah.
has like shown up.
Yep.
And so now we've launched a ship to go collect samples and see what it is. So he's on like a year-long trip.
Yeah.
It's like 6 months to get there, 6
Right.
months to get back. And oddly enough, they mentioned for reasons that I'm not sure of that there are like other people right behind him.
Yeah.
There
That
are
must have been
other
something from the book.
ships.
That yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. But anyway, he's completely by himself.
Yeah.
He's on a one-man
Yeah.
ship,
Solo.
which is like a great book, but
Sure.
you're if that didn't lead you to suspend disbelief
Right.
immediately.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then the movie basically revolves around his relationship with his wife, who's back on Earth, and her.
It's Carey Mulligan, by the way,
Oh yeah,
because I love her.
and
You love her. We
she's
have to
great.
mention her every time she's in something.
And when we enter his trip, he's almost there.
Yep.
Which means it's like 6 months since he left.
Right.
And basically, without spoiling stuff, his wife is sort of over him now.
Yeah, right.
Like
they've drifted apart.
She is done.
Right.
Or at least that's where she wants to be and all that.
That's where we pick everything up.
She's kind of over it.
Yeah.
The people in charge want her to call because they do this like semi-frequent calling him and everything.
Keep him seen.
And she doesn't want to do it anymore.
Right.
She left a message.
Yeah,
that's all
a
sign. All crazy. And then I'm gonna say that this is not spoilery.
It can't be spoilery
because it's super early.
It's very important. Yeah.
There is a big space spider.
There's a giant spider on board.
Right. That comes on board and is or is not really just a figment of his imagination.
Right.
And who knows?
And telepathically
and we go back
talks
and forth.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It just talks.
Yeah. Just automatically is like, hello,
just like
human. Yeah. And they tried to make skinny humans fetch.
And then so he has to deal with the fact that now he's talking to the spider.
Yeah.
Who knows all about the space dust.
Yep.
And all sorts of things and whatever. And then it keeps kind of throwing his own mental images at him about his relationship with his wife and on. And then, whatever, hilarity ensues and he goes a bit mad after being alone for 6 months. Anyway. So as we've said already, we've got to get to our list and get through this with some, I don't know, some expediency.
Brevity. Yeah.
Okay. And also, I just don't care about this movie. But so I don't know, cut to the chase. I gave this a 3, and I feel like it was lucky to get it. I hated everything about this movie.
I had you down as a 0, and I thought that was even forgiving. I gave it a 1.
There you go.
And I thought I was doing a lot of help for it. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, so
I can do this quick.
The only reason I give it a 3 even is because there are a few scenes that I thought were actually really cool.
Yep.
There's some chance that this is actually a really cool book.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Really, they've screwed it all to hell making this movie. But really, like what this is if this was like a 23-minute Twilight Zone episode or something, I would probably think it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it would make a lot more sense even than it actually does with all of the stuff that they shove in here. So I have no idea what the book is like at all.
Me either.
But the majority of time in this movie is spent doing stuff that is just wasteful.
Yeah.
It's just like weird padding that is not getting us anywhere as far as what we're talking about, what this story can actually do with itself.
Yeah.
There's like about the first 5 minutes,
Yep.
and then there's about 5 minutes in the middle, and then like the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like all there is to this
Yeah.
whole movie. I have to sit here and watch all this stuff
And
forever.
you've nailed about 20 minutes of the hour and 47-minute screen time.
Right,
Like,
right.
oh my God.
That's like all
Yeah. It's 80
that
more minutes.
actually like functions,
Yeah.
right? It's this is like if you take like a Philip K. Dick story that's like 3 pages long,
Yeah.
and you're like, that's a great idea. And then you make it into like a 3 hour movie
Right. Walking
where
everywhere.
you're like yeah,
Just keep walking and
it's
thinking out loud and
yeah, I don't know. And most of it is just so boring that
yeah.
even Adam Sandler can't pull you out of it. Although, there are a few times
He's
where
game.
he kind of
He's
does,
trying.
right?
Yeah.
There are moments in it where he can he can pull you along just in his ability enough to have you get moments here and there where you're not hating yourself for watching it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially because I think there's something about his uncut gems character that's like in this character where like in uncut gems he would do like the most horrible things and somehow you still kind of were
Yeah.
there with him. You didn't
Yeah.
necessarily like him exactly,
Right.
but you just couldn't help but
You're
like
pulling
stay
for him.
with him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that kind of happens in here a bit.
Yep.
Like you're watching it and you're like, man, why am I watching this? And
Yeah.
every once in a while he's like, no, come on, really. And you do.
Right.
You're like, well, I mean, I don't know. You just can't help but give him the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
It just doesn't actually get in there in the end.
The whole film for me is just a bunch of misfires. Carey Mulligan is always great. I've never seen her bad in anything. And she's an incredibly capable actress. I think people have a very formulated opinion of Adam Sandler. I'm an Adam Sandler fan, both of the comedy and of the very serious drama side of him more often than not. I think he's very capable of as an actor and can really clear high bars. And I think he's shown that with a few of his more serious attempts. I really like Paul Dano. Like, I don't have much to criticize Paul Dano for, but this film just doesn't work across the board. I think it's an interesting idea. I like the concept of the film very much. It's just sort of weirdly clumsily done, and it feels very pretentious in how long it lingers on things and doesn't seem to understand the easiest and the most powerful lever in sort of telling stories is show don't tell. And there's so much of just telling me. Like when you flash back enough, like show more scenes with Adam and Carrie and their relationship. Don't just float with the nauseating camera movement that is very just like we're going to turn like this because this is how I signify we're in space.
Yeah.
And it over and over and over again, almost like a metronome. They're like, we're going to go left, we're going to go right. Like it's not a boat on waves. It was distracting. Paul Dano is not the voice of this spider, or Paul Dano's voice for this spider felt badly mixed in post. It's not strange, it's just oddly out of place and grating to me. I didn't think that the story that we had to explore justified the runtime. I thought there was a lot of things that they could have tied up and made quick. It's beautiful looking, but that's not enough, and I'm a guy that's like, I'll give you a couple stars just for how great the visual effects are. I was constantly bored, amusing myself with things like, so this is, you know, this is like Inter Sandler instead of Interstellar. And I'm like, all right, now it wants to be like Ad Astra, so now it's like Adam Astra. Like, there's just so many easy dumb jokes about this. When the metaphor there is he's drifting away from his wife, and then metaphorically drifting away from his wife. How do we bring the uniting back? Like, there's so many things you can do here, and it just feels clumsily not even out of the first draft.
Yeah,
Like it's so
yeah,
weirdly
it's really
ineffective.
weird, and we got to move on. But I
Yeah.
think, like I said, it feels like
God, it's so bad.
there could be a good book in here, right? Like maybe
Yeah,
the
sure.
book
I
is
think so.
actually
For sure.
pretty good,
Yeah.
but the things that this movie wants to explore by with the idea of looking at the regular world,
Right.
real life, by being in this sci-fi situation
Yep.
and then exploring how that
Yeah.
all ties together.
Right.
That stuff is actually not too bad.
Right.
Like if you just made this, like I said, if you
Like
just
that.
made this like 25 minutes long,
Right.
that, and usually we're saying if you cut like a half hour out of this
Yeah.
film, but I'm
Yeah.
saying if you cut this film down to like almost nothing, if you
Right.
cut it down to like a TV episode,
Yeah.
like a Twilight Zone episode or
Yeah.
something, there's actually kind of interesting stuff. And I think for what this is doing with relationships and how he is in life and how he, was in their relationship and we have to get there and everything.
Yeah.
This story is a story that is better for not telling it to you and letting you just think about it, right?
Yeah.
Like letting it be something like a Twilight Zone episode that's a
Right.
half an hour and then you think about it for a while.
Right.
Not in the opposite of
Not the
that, where
opposite. That's
it
right.
just won't stop saying everything all the
Right.
time.
Over and over. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so don't go see that one.
I even
Not
as an Adam Sandler
get
fan,
Netflix
like
just to watch Adam Sandler.
I can't even. I mean, this is this worst? I mean, Little Nicky is almost always berated as being the worst one. I don't think this is any better than Little Nicky, and that's I can't believe I just said that.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
weird. All right.
that's weird. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
yeah, we got to get to
Have we got enough time for it?
we got to get to our list.
I think we can do it if we
Sure.
really if we. It's,
No, we're fine. We got plenty of time.
All right.
Don't worry about it.
All right.
So actually that brings up the point.
I'm just transcribing
we're-
mine over like
We're
hilarious.
really trying to switch the show to 45 minutes, which would leave us with very little time. But if we do go over them,
You can always
then
go over. I
that's
know.
fine.
I understand. Yeah.
Okay, so it's our worst list,
Yeah.
and we do have we should throw out a little bit of caveat there.
Sure.
This one is when we did our best list, like you said, you try to limit to what we did on the show.
Yeah.
I have to see most everything anyway, so my list is always everything that I've seen, which may not, be things that we've covered,
Right.
because we can't cover everything
No.
in the show.
Right.
But in the worst list, we have to have the caveat that these may not at all be the 10 worst movies.
Right.
And most of the time, my 10 worst movies are worse movies than your 10 worst movies because I have seen worse movies than you bothered to watch, right?
That's true.
You're not going to,
I don't have to.
you
I
don't have
do
to
it.
cover everything.
I'm in there with you,
Um,
but I don't have to do it.
Right, which is
I-
the double-edged sword of being a movie critic that people don't think about, right?
I exercise that option a bit.
Anyway, but this year especially, even I am going to have to say these might not really be the 10 worst movies, because there were actually a lot of things that this year that I did not get a chance to see,
Right.
that because there just was too much going on this year, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to go back and force myself to revisit some things that I know are horrible.
When
Right.
time is short. Why do you want to watch something awful the way we would have in our 20s?
Right.
Like, it's so bad, you got to check it out.
Right.
All right.
A lot of times,
You know?
for one reason or another, I have to watch it. Right.
Mhm.
And this year, I dodged a few, and
Yeah.
I know there are some movies out there, but especially when you now start mixing everything that comes out on streaming, it's a movie,
Right.
and then therefore it counts. I mean, at some point, it's like, this list could just be like 10 Lifetime movies, right? Does
Yeah,
that count?
that's
Or-
right.
Because I didn't see them.
Right. Right.
But so, and also to reiterate, I hate lists,
Right.
and I do not in any way stand behind the order of this list, except for
Yeah.
the top 3.
Oh,
which
really?
which I do stand behind the idea that those are the three worst movies.
Yeah.
But don't come in with uh 9 is actually worse than 6 or whatever,
Right.
because I will just go, okay,
Right. You
because I
win.
don't
You got
care.
me.
The ordering of the worst list could not be
Yeah.
less meaningful to me.
My quick caveat is this is a very it was a tricky year for the worst list for me, and a little bit for the best, but not as such. The worst is almost always very simple, and it isn't as always. On the off chance this is the first time you're seeing the show, we don't just look at what we rated 0 to 3 and then put them in order.
Right.
Sometimes the worst film got a 4, and the 10th worst, the best of the worst, still got a 0. Like, it's just for different reasons. I actually had a bit of trouble putting the worst list together this year, and that's not because we didn't see bad films, but even again, top of the worst is the worst, but the middling of the worst, not as abhorrent as previous
Yeah.
years. It wasn't as clear to me when I
Yeah.
started moving things around.
Yeah, I will say though that even though I said that about, like, number 9 and number 6 and
Yeah.
whatever, I mean, they are all trash.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I'm
Well,
just not going to exactly care about the ordering of the trash.
before we jump in, I had a couple just missed, and really just a couple.
I didn't. So
A
you
couple
go
that just
ahead.
missed. Like, no one will save you. I really didn't like that enough.
Oh
That
yeah.
almost got in.
That
Um,
actually that is on my list.
that would have okay.
That
I mean, that might have been in the top 15, but it wasn't bad enough to make the top 20. Really didn't like John Wick 4, though I love the whole thing. I love the series. I didn't despise. I didn't like Bottoms, and that's made a lot of people's best list.
wow.
I didn't like May December, and I think that made
Yeah.
your list. Maybe it didn't.
No.
I'm I liked Eileen for a long time, and then I hated the end of it. And again, not
Mm,
enough to put it on my top 10 worst films.
right.
Top 20, it might have made 18. It might have made 17. Same with Anatomy of a Fall. These are people's best lists, and it came pretty close to making my worst. Um, I had 65 down on here, and I forgot how much I hated that. Um, just because of how derivative and boring and just dumb it all felt.
Yeah.
Just Anyway, that's it.
All right.
The quick dismissed.
All right. Before we get into really taking up too much time, the worst of the year.
So we
Drum
go
roll.
backwards, right?
Exactly.
And we
Yeah.
go from 10 up. So
Again, we're gonna cycle.
Yep.
Because we're
we will.
mad.
That's fine.
Okay. My number 10 of the worst of the year is the Beanie Bubble with Zach
Yep.
Galifianakis,
Yep.
Elizabeth Banks, and the only reason this is like a weird thing, because this is actually this one I do stand behind this being 10 on my list, because this actually was like almost not on the list. Like, this is almost not that bad
Yeah.
and almost not worthy of being on the list.
Yeah.
So it is definitely measurably better than everything else, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
so don't email me and tell me this is worse than like number 4 or
Yeah.
whatever, and it should be in a different place. Because it's not horrible. The main reason this is on the list is because it's like totally a comedy and totally trying to be comedy, and there's absolutely nothing funny in it ever.
That
There's
sounds like Zach's.
this is a movie, and this is really, as whether or not this ranks into the rating
Yeah.
quite as much. But for me, it matters for being on the worst list, right? Because this movie is a movie like by, for, and about a bunch of people who got screwed by Beanie Babies, right? Like, you can just feel like this pissed offness behind the comedy,
Yeah.
where there are people involved in this movie somewhere
Yeah.
who like want to get their money back somehow, and they're like, I'll make a movie about how I got screwed.
Right. That's funny. Yeah.
But there's all this stuff that like most everything that happens in the movie is some inside joke that no one is inside of, and
Right.
none of it is funny,
Yeah.
right? It's like all the people writing the movie,
Yeah.
whoever wrote
Whoever
it,
did that.
whatever it is. I mean, it's based on a book, but I don't know exactly how much that translates into the screenplay.
Right.
But the writing of it is all like, you know how when you're at the Beanie Baby convention and like there's these people who are there and there's these people who are there and you're like, no, I don't.
Right.
And this isn't funny. There's like, I mean, there are a couple of parts that are like a tiny bit funny, mainly because, you know, Zach Galifianakis and Elizabeth Banks are pretty funny
Funny
people,
people.
and they will make something that's not funny at least a little bit funny, right?
Right. Right.
But overall, oh my god, it's like painful to watch. It is like there is and the weird thing is that comedies are very rarely on my worst of the year list.
Yeah.
Even if they're bad comedies, right? They're just, they weren't that good. But are they really horrible?
Right. It
Right?
has to be extra.
But when something thinks it's funny
Yeah, that's hard. There's nothing worse than
and
that.
is none
Yeah.
funny at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
then it's like, watching The Room. I
Right.
mean, it's
Right.
it's anyway, that's my 10.
Yeah. 10 for me was Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Uh, we again, like Mark said in the beginning, my stuff is almost always things that we have seen. It makes it a little easier for me to be quick in reviewing it because I can always say if you want to know how much we didn't like it or how much I didn't like it, if it happens to be on your list as well. We actually did cover it in an episode. You can scroll up into your feed and you can find it there. The long and the short of it is, it was, despite how visually great it looked to some people, it was just too much special effects vomit to try to carry a story that was just all over the place.
Yeah,
And
I'd say that
it's a
one could
letdown.
be, in my
Mhm.
honorable mentions
Yeah,
or
right.
whatever too.
Right.
Like, if the list was a little longer, that would definitely be, like, right there.
Yeah.
It was just really bad.
It's just
But
scattershot.
it's weird because it was a special kind of bad where it was, like, so forgettable
Yep. Yep.
that it's like you don't even think about it when
Right. You
ask
really have to
yourself, "What are the
reconsider. Yeah.
worst?" Whatever. Anyway.
9 for me, sort of keeping with the theme, is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Felt like the MCU just sort of has been stumbling a little bit, not as much as others have gleefully in some alleys professed. I still think there's a lot of great stories. I think there's a lot of great characters to explore, but I think there's a bit of laziness on certain avenues, and I think the idea that, well, we'll just slap the MCU on it and people will come is a mistake. There's some stuff in this film that I thought was really great and touching about Rocket, but the rest of the film just seemed all over the place. And again, sort of similar to Quantumania in that it didn't look bad, it just didn't look good. And I don't mean just the visual stuff, I just mean what characters are doing and
Yeah.
putting them in places. So that was number 9 for me.
That's another one that would be, like, right
Yeah,
on
cusp.
on the edge for me. And I feel like those 2 movies put together just sort of, you know, tells you, like, how many more bad movies I have to see than you do, because like, those aren't on my list, but only because I think,
Yeah,
anyway, I'm guessing as to what is making up the rest of your list, but,
right.
because there's gonna be movies on my list that
Sure.
you were like, "Yeah, I'm not watching."
Yeah, I'm skipping that.
So,
You're good for
uh,
you. Yep.
but Guardians of the Galaxy was,
That's just
it
fun.
was really bad, and, not to review the movie or anything like that, but, from what you were saying, the thing that jumps out at me is watching that movie felt so much like there were many parts of that movie where it was like we wrote it yesterday,
Yeah.
where it was
Yep.
like, "I'm not sure what else to do here.
Yeah.
Who's got something?"
Yeah.
And then
Right.
they have giant rubbery suits and,
Right. Yeah.
like, there's so many, like, completely goofball parts, and none of it is really doing very much, and
And those Guardians films, in my mind, did, I think, what the Nolan films, the Batman films did in your mind. Like, I thought the first one was the best,
exactly.
and then the second one was not as good, and the third one was worse.
But
Like,
it's
they
not
just were
but
going in
it's
the wrong
not even
direction.
like the first one was, like, the best of the 3. it's like the first one was actually good.
It's good.
The first one was like
Yep.
really, really good, and it's a whole other level. The
Yeah.
second one's,
It's
not
okay.
not nearly as bad as the
It's
third. It's
no.
okay, but
Right.
still.
Yep.
Anyway,
So that was my 9.
all right, my 9 is Transformers: Rise of the Beast.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah, which is
Almost watched it the other day too.
just sadly bad.
Okay.
Although I will tell you, there is like a 20-minute span in the movie
Yeah.
where it's just kind of like, if you're me and you're
Yeah.
an old man
Right. Right.
and you watch the Transformers on Saturday morning,
Right.
there is like there's like this one little space in it where you're
Yeah.
like, oh, come on, this is fun.
Yeah. Right.
But man, it's just
Oh
so
man.
bad.
That sucks.
And I have seen people reviewing this one,
Yeah.
oddly enough, right? Where they like defend it and they're like saying kind of the exact same thing, right?
Right.
They're like, but this movie is like made for
Yeah.
whatever, like basically just like what I'm saying about Damsel,
Yeah.
right? Except it's just not
It's wrong.
actually.
Right. Nice try.
It's not made
No.
for, you know, 13-year-olds,
Right.
and because it's got like those sensibilities, it can do this or that.
Right.
And in Damsel, people are not just doing stupid things.
Right. Right.
Th-
That's
th-
absolutely
It's
true.
that's a different
Yep.
thing,
I
right?
absolutely agree.
Than being for a different age. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's really bad. There is some cool stuff to like look at,
Yeah.
and some of it
Sure. There
is,
better be.
whatever, not that horrible, but man,
Yeah. That sounds.
mostly it's
It sounds
horrible.
awful.
So that's my 9.
Yep.
My 8 is there's like a whole theme gonna happen here,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Shazam! Fury of the Gods,
Yeah.
which is in a very similar way just as awful, except in this one, the first one wasn't that bad. It was like passable.
It was barely passable for me. I
Um,
understand. I
but
take your
this
point.
this one is like everything that was bad in that one. They were like, let's do that 10
Let's
times
do
more,
it.
right?
God, that
It's
sucks.
so like weirdly goofy, and the worst thing about this movie is the extent to which Zachary Levi defends it.
Yeah, I've
As
seen.
soon as this started getting bad reviews, he like went nuts and
Yeah.
was like all over everywhere
Yeah, I
talking
remember
about
that.
it. And you're like, dude, what? Come on,
Right.
like
I get that you get some money if it does well, but
right.
calm back a little.
Um, but man,
Yeah.
it's so lazy is really what it is.
Yeah.
Like this movie, the other one had like a shot kind of, and this one is just like, we found a generic storyboard.
Yeah.
And we're like, I don't know, throw something in there.
Right.
It's like playing Mad Libs, this movie, and
Yeah.
it's not anything real interesting that happens.
They tried
And
to spice it up with big names too.
I don't know what it is, but it's so
Yeah.
weirdly off. But anyway, all my movies are gonna all come together
I
into
remember we were
some
gonna go see
great thing.
we were going to go see it and something happened and we didn't see it together. Obviously you saw it and then I just skipped it
Yeah.
because we never covered it on the show. And I thought I'm still kind of curious about it because I'm a sucker for all superhero films. But
Yeah.
anyway, that was your 8. My
Yeah.
8 still feels weirdly out of place, but it's in here anyway, and it's hard to remember every reason I didn't like it enough to slide it into 8. But it's the Marvels.
Ah.
And I think the internet, if it were a real person, would just point at me and be like, "White guy doesn't like a film about movies, movies about women." And I'm like, "No, actually, I very much like everything that's going on." I just didn't think that this worked as well as it should have, and it felt like an afterthought in a lot of ways. There are some things in the movie that I like very much. You can go back and you can listen to our review of it. Um, there's a montage where they're all learning that when they're using their powers, they're teleporting around each other, and they're using that to try to figure out how to be offensive and a skilled team. And that stuff's really fun. And there's some easy stuff in the beginning too, but it sort of feels like when you take characters that are supposed to be in PG-13 or low R rated stories, and then you just drop them into G. like templates, it just doesn't work very well for me. So 8, The Marvels. 7 is, speaking of Adam Sandler, is Murder Mystery 2. And and it was funny for me because I found that in order to watch Murder Mystery 2, which might have been on Hulu and that might have been on Netflix. I think it's Netflix, right? Because we just got done talking about
I think it
Adam
is.
Sandler's Big Deal. I realized that small hole was I'd never seen Murder Mystery. And I watched that, and that's a blast. That's so much fun. Like, it's just easy fun. It's not like 10, but it's a very enjoyable 7.5, 8. And I'm like, okay, I watch that. In another day or two, I'm going to watch Murder Mystery 2 so I don't get too,
Yeah, your
tied into it.
expectations messed with you there.
And Murder Mystery 2 is just like leaving soda out without the cap on. It's just flat. And it just wasn't very good at all.
Yeah.
So that was my 7.
Okay, my 7 is Expendables 4,
Yeah.
which is at least 3 movies too many
Looked
in this
good.
series, right?
Yeah.
The first Expendables is actually not awful.
It's fun.
I didn't love it or anything,
Yeah.
right? But it's a decent enough premise
Yeah.
with enough people in it who, have some charisma,
Yeah.
and stuff blows up, and it's pretty decently fun. Because if you go through this whole list, you're gonna think that I think that any kind of action movie is garbage,
I
right?
see the thing. Yeah.
Um, which is not at all the case. This one though, man, this one I swear to God is written on the fly.
Probably.
They're like, okay, here's where it ends. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now show up
Do
and do something.
we'll wing it. Yeah.
It's all totally goofy.
Yeah.
A lot of it feels like the comedy we're trying to get out of it, the line,
Yeah.
like Jason Statham is gonna blah,
Sure.
blah, blah, whatever, like
Yeah.
all the crap that happens in it feels like it's ad-libbed
Yeah.
by people who should not ad-lib things,
Come
man.
on.
No,
Come
it's
on.
awful.
No, I get it.
Everything in this movie is like really awful. Except, as we frequently say, right, there are definitely like 4 or 5 scenes in this movie
Yeah.
that if you just saw that
Oh, yeah,
scene
you'd be like, I'm all over
totally
this.
with
Yeah.
no context and we're just watch that scene, do
Yeah.
you think this will be a good movie?
Right.
You'd be going, I'll watch that movie,
Sure.
right?
All day.
There are some
Yeah.
scenes in it that are
Cool.
kind of fun and cool,
That's cool.
right? But all together in the movie,
Oh,
it's really bad.
it's great if it's a good movie or fun or just a drive-in kind of fun. It's definitely a throwback to guys like us who lived in video stores for a while. The shtick of the film has nothing to do with the real story of the movie. It's just look at all these actors who you never imagined would be in a film together because for the longest time they couldn't be. Budgets were only so big, and you couldn't
Right.
get Van Damme and Gibson and Harrison Ford on the scene. You no way they're going to have that happen. Now that you can have it happen and everyone's just having a blast, like that's sort of the
Right,
fun.
right.
But it doesn't hurt that maybe they could just have a fun story too and maybe make a good
Well,
movie.
and the thing is, like, can we not just have one movie of anything?
Right, no,
Like, it
no.
was
Sequels.
fine
Yeah, no,
with
make
the
them, keep
one,
them going.
right? No.
Um,
Anyway,
it would have been better. The Expendables would have been better if they had just started with a group of like 3 or 4 and every film picked up 2 more people. So now you suddenly have
right.
Bruce Willis and Jet Li. And then you've got, Schwarzenegger and instead of having 12 in the first film and then just being like, well, here we go.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
That was 2. That was
And
Shazam and
yeah, my 6th is the Marvels.
Oh, okay.
So we already got that. And I don't need to say too much more about that movie except
Yeah.
that it just didn't really, I think, have I feel like this movie needed like a few more months of
Yeah.
people deciding what our story actually is.
Yep.
Because that whole teleporting thing was just goofball,
Yeah.
right? And
Totally.
didn't do anything, didn't really serve like a function except like we have to learn how to work together. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I mean,
Okay.
hooray.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But it was kind of a goofy thing. I mean, I'll give you the trying to find a way to work together or whatever.
Yeah.
But um but it was one of those things that somebody like had that idea at one point and went, "Oh, wouldn't this be cool if this is how this had to work?" And
Yeah.
like now we're locked into it
Right.
and we can't get rid of it. And it just didn't work. But overall, the story just like, meandered a
Yeah.
lot. And I, like you said, we're the old white guys who don't like the movie with the girls, except I love all of them.
Me too. Me
I,
too.
the story is just
It's the problem.
really donkey.
It is
I
really a
mean,
problem. That's the problem.
it is not a good story.
Yeah.
All of the stuff that is the most I don't know, part that you would have a problem with because it's a woman,
Yeah.
like the womanly parts that we're supposed to not like
Right.
because we're men or whatever.
Right.
I actually like all those
Yeah, me
parts.
too.
Those are like the only saving graces of this movie
Yeah.
is but all of the and not only that, but just everything goes on for so
Yeah,
long.
that's true.
It just everything they do has to
Yeah.
happen for like 3 times as long as it
Yeah.
needs to. And I don't know, ultimately it's just another superhero movie where I start getting bored.
Yeah.
And her earlier ones I like more than everyone else.
Yeah, right.
Like the the
The Captain
the
Marvel stuff
first
and
Captain
yeah, me
Marvel.
too.
Yeah, I really like those
Yeah, me
movies.
too.
So, that's not it.
The one of the and one of the quick side streams that MCU's having is they're putting characters in front of you and they're telling you to care about them because they want to franchise them.
Right.
When what built the MCU, aside from just Robert Downey Jr., is they would introduce characters, get you to care about them because they were cast well and there were great stories behind them that made you emotionally get attached to them, and then they dropped them in conflicting problems that made the audience feel. So they would go over and over to see these characters that they had fallen in love with. Now you just introduce someone and I have to love them and accept them because it's a Hispanic person
Because
or
you've
a black
already got
person
the
or a
movie
female person or
scheduled, right?
anything, right, and that's not enough, and they think it is, and I think that's a mistake.
Yeah.
So but these characters are actually really great, they just need to put a little bit more time into them. That was your 6. 5 for me is Leave the World Behind. That was an Amazon, film with Julia
Wait, did
Roberts.
you do 6? You didn't do
Oh, okay. I thought I did 6. No, I guess I didn't do 6. Okay, well, 5 you guys know what 5 is. 6 for me, right, I'm sorry, is Renfield, and
Oh, yeah.
Nick Cage is almost easy enough to watch in just about anything, especially when it's things like Dream Scenario, which happened to be on my best list. Um, if there's an actor out there who can probably simultaneously be on your best and worst list, and it isn't Nick Cage, it's probably Adam Sandler. And they,
Right.
that's sort of the way it goes. Renfield was just sort of thought it was more, you know, creative and more interesting than it really was. And I just thought it went on too long and it was just making a bunch of dumb decisions. And again, as I said before, you can go listen to our podcast on that because we don't cover it for the whole show. I think it's one that we did 2 or 3 films for.
No, yeah, that's like a close
It's just
miss for me too.
it's just
But
dumb.
yeah, I don't know. It didn't jump out at me now making this list,
Yeah.
but it's somewhere pretty close.
That's another good thing. When I make my list, and I can't wait to jump over things like I just did, I actually look at the whole list of the films that I watched in the year, take all the best out, and then I look at, I mean, what is it? 30 bad films or 30 not great films, and I start weeding out the 5s and the 6s because those are not gonna probably make my list, and then it's left with the 0s to 4s, and what order do I think those are in? I don't know that I would have remembered we saw Renfield last year if I didn't have it written down.
Right?
Like, it's sort of also forgettable. So 5, as I said, Leave the World Behind. That was the Amazon thing with Julia Roberts, Mahershala Ali, Kevin Bacon has a bit in it. It's it's not a bad premise. It just doesn't know really how to throw it into a gear that isn't just idle. And I really didn't like the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I really didn't like the end. I thought the end was pretty stupid.
Yeah.
So that's why I got 5 on mine.
All right. My 5 is The Flash.
Yeah.
Which is another superhero movie.
Yeah, right. I mean,
It's just all superhero movies, but the story of the movie is fantastically stupid. But if you take this is like another one, right? If you take like the Batman stuff out of this movie, you would think you were watching a good movie. Like if
Yeah.
you watch that separately,
Yeah.
if you watched a fair amount anyway of him being Batman,
Yeah.
show him back up kind of in his Batman role and stuff. Some of that stuff is really fun to
Yeah.
watch, right? But man,
Yeah.
all the rest of the movie is just laughably weird,
Yeah.
and a lot
Yeah.
of it has like completely distracting CGI in it.
Yeah.
It's bonkers.
Awful looking CGI at times.
And he as much as he gets bad press,
Yep.
and deservedly so from what I know, because I don't know, who
Sure.
knows, right?
Right.
Um, but like he just is not as good as trying to support him through his troubles. Like he
Right.
just cannot carry this movie.
Yeah.
He can't get you into, the screwy him could have like a different movie.
Right. Yep.
That version of him is actually pretty good and easy to watch in a lot of parts of the movie.
Yeah.
Like the serious him is like just making you want to change the channel.
Yeah.
I can't watch him.
Yeah.
I just don't believe him at all, right?
Yeah.
And it's really weird because I've seen him in some other stuff where he's not that bad. He's not
Right.
distractingly bad or whatever. But in this movie especially, like I didn't believe anything he was saying
Right.
about anything,
Right.
right? Like I'm
Right.
starting not to believe you're a person at all or have like ever left the house. I'm like,
Yeah. You
who
can't
are
be
you
this.
supposed to be
Yeah.
convincing me you are? Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, that was completely awful. Number 4 is it's number 4, so it's really bad, right?
Right.
But it's also my holdout movie for I can't fault anyone for having a good time watching it. And that is Meg 2, The Trench,
Oh God. Oh
which
man.
is fantastically awful,
Yeah.
but I will give it to anyone who wants to watch this movie and say it's so bad it's good because it really kind of is. I almost agree with that.
That's
If you
great.
don't watch as long as you're watching this movie
Yeah.
going, "Damn, that's stupid," and it's
Right.
it's like Sharknado
Yeah. Of
movie,
course it
this
is.
thing,
Of course
right?
it is.
It is so bad, and it's also the how
Man.
many times can Jason Statham be the worst list? That's
Guy, he's on your hit list. I don't know what he did
uh,
to you.
no, the movie's horrible, and I mean, the first one was horrible anyway, but the first one
Meg
also was
looks great.
in that same wheelhouse,
I
right?
know.
It's only good for being bad. It's so stupid
Right.
and goofy and like
Right.
the glass is cracking and and then the thing is like planet sized and I mean it's like it's so insanely goofy bad.
Right.
Um but I can't even let it get away with that completely because some of the dialogue is just god awful. Like no one
You
has
went for the
ever said
dialogue,
those
you know.
words,
Yeah.
right?
Right. You know you went for the dialogue.
And a lot of the back and forth between the characters, I swear to God, feels random. It's like,
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're
no, I know.
talking to each other, and you're like,
Yeah.
this is just random word generator. Like, did AI write this movie or
Right.
whatever it is? Whatever the new twist on, it used to be random word generator, right?
Right.
Anyway, and a lot of the like getting from one point to the next is worse than the worst 80s horror movies, right? It's
Yeah.
like, why would anyone ever do that? Well, because the set is over there and
Yeah.
that's where it
That's
happens.
where we gotta
So
do it.
that person has to go there. It's really, really bad.
Wow.
All right, that's my 4.
That's your 4. All right. 4 for me. Let me get these in the right order. 4 for me is The Mother. Um, yeah, we're good. The Jennifer Lopez, Joseph Fiennes, Gail Garcia Marquez is that and boy, I'm so glad he used to be in so many good things. The Gail Garcia Bernal, um, even a very good like video store rental. This world's best assassin, she comes out of retirement to protect a daughter she never knew she had. I mean, Jennifer Lopez has, all Gigli jokes aside, she crafted a pretty interesting filmography where she's within a range of performing well in a lot of the stuff that she does, going back to like things that you wouldn't even expect her in, like Out of Sight. Like she's stunning in that film. And the recent film, what is it? Showgirls? No, that's the Elizabeth Berkley. The mom exotic dancer, they all ripping everybody off film that she just did a couple years ago that I'm obviously blanking on.
Oh yeah.
She was great. She was great in that. Um, she just sometimes will just pick a weird film that she doesn't need to do. I don't know necessarily what it is about the film that attracted her to it because it's so, yeah, we're gonna get into a stage of criticism where everything is like it was written by AI, but this just feels like it was really written by AI, or like you said earlier, like a Mad Libs. So you have a female assassin Mad Lib sheet.
Right.
All right, fill it in and then go shoot it. Like it was just so weirdly bad in a way that it almost never had to be. And if they had seen it, I don't know why they even released it. I have no
Yeah,
clue why it even saw the light of day.
this one is the ever elusive one that I managed to dodge
Man, it was just
successfully
so
on your list
stupid.
because that doesn't usually happen the wrong way, right?
Yeah,
Where
that
you've
was.
seen it. But I have to confess, I only watched like 20 minutes of this movie
You did see some of it.
and I just never went back to it. I watched it and I'm like, all right, I'll finish this later. And then I've just never gotten around to go. It was never
God.
important enough to me to go, yeah, I have to get a review of this out.
I
So
I should have done exactly what you did and just, but I kept watching it and I don't. It was, and I watched it. I wasn't like on my phone watching it. Like I watched it. I'm like, what am I doing? That's so stupid.
all
So
right,
that's
that's your
four.
four.
Three for me is Infinity Pool.
Ooh.
And Infinity Pool was one that I saw pretty early in the year, and I thought this is going to be really, really sort of creepy and fun and fantastic. There's a lot of weird dealings going on at a very remote island resort. There's a lot of stuff in the description that sounds like it could be a metaphor for class and caste things going on between the rich and the poor. It's got a hell of a cast of, Mia Goth is in it, Alexander Skarsgård. I won't read down the whole list. There's a bunch of people in it, and
And it should be good.
and it should have been really creepy and great. And in fact, what it wound up being, because part of the allure for me was David Cronenberg, who's done a lot of 80s and 90s weird films. His son Brandon had done this one, and I thought maybe that's going to be fun. Maybe the apple didn't fall far from the tree on this one, and he actually didn't necessarily fall far from the tree because he amplifies a lot of what his dad's. And this is maybe a bit unfair because he should be able to own his own mistakes. But his dad would just think, "Oh, that looks creepy. Let's just do that and do that for like 12 or 15 minutes."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And to some people who don't watch a lot of movies, maybe that's terribly affecting. To someone like me who sees a fair amount to a lot of movies, it was just boring. And everybody just didn't seem to act as if they should, almost as if what you were transcribing was a dream where I was walking with someone and then suddenly they were my enemy. And then suddenly they were trying to
And
eat
I
they were
just
trying
went
to eat
along
my
with it
house and I
anyway.
couldn't run.
Right.
And it's just stupid. It's just stupid and ineffectively done and sort of very amateurishly done. So it was very disappointing. That was my three.
Uh, that one is another one where it's just not quite on my list,
Yeah.
but I didn't dislike it as much. But
Read
it's
the
still really, really, it's really close.
I'll
It's
say
really
this,
bad.
if anybody looked at IMDb or just the quick paragraph describing it, it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And it really does sound great. But it's just
It
absolutely
just is.
horribly executed.
All right, so that's your three.
Yep.
My three is Insidious: The Red Door, largely based on the fact that they made this movie
Yeah.
at
That's all
all.
they had
I
to
don't even
do.
have to watch it.
That's all they Insidious, the
Uh,
red door.
it's it's
Man.
just as bad as the last one,
Yeah.
except that now Patrick Wilson directed it.
Ooh. Ooh,
So
I didn't know that.
it's
Oh
it's
man. It's too
it's
bad.
hard to say if it's better or worse for that, but it's
Yeah.
different for that. It
Yeah.
is you can tell that it's there's a different hand
Yeah.
behind it, but it's still just as stupid a thing.
Yeah.
And this movie, for as much as all of these movies are god awful,
Yeah.
uh, this one, especially from like the midpoint on,
Yeah.
is so like all it's got is jump scares, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that's all that happens in the
Yeah, that
that's the
sucks.
only theory even is we're gonna walk you into this dark corridor so that something can jump out at you. Like
Right.
that's the whole
That sucks.
that's the
That's so
whole
lazy.
script,
That's
right?
so bad.
But the first half getting into that point is very reminiscent of the last movie and everything that was like kind of just solidly goofy about it, right?
Yeah.
It's like just a continuation of that
Yeah.
noise. And it's really bad. And my number two is the Pope's Exorcist because
Yeah.
we have to continue the
Right.
horror trend. The horror and superheroes. That's
Right.
all.
That
That's
was
all
it.
we get. And it's Russell Crowe movie.
Interesting.
It's this whole like, and so
Man, how
so
far?
this one, and it's worse
Yeah.
than Insidious.
Yeah, of course.
And the reason it's worse than Insidious is because it's even more serious.
Oh, yeah. No,
Like
no sense of humor about itself.
Insidious
It's
is
very, yeah.
serious, right?
Right.
And based on true events.
All, yeah. Don't forget.
And this one is Russell Crowe
Oh, man.
being so like serious about everything happening. And that is, I feel like a tricky thing when you're talking about horror movie, right? Because, okay, the priest in The Exorcist
Yeah.
is serious.
Yeah.
The movie is not, right?
Ooh,
It's not a movie
I
that
don't
is
know.
going,
I don't think that's, I'm with you
this
there.
is historical fact.
Yeah, it is. This happened.
And this is the documentary of
Yeah.
this happening.
That's right. That's right.
And the Pope's Exorcist, like,
Yeah.
it's a movie made like it's practically like talking down to you.
Yeah.
It's so
Right.
serious. It's so serious about itself and everything that
Now
it's
you're
doing.
making me want to see this.
And the Vatican and the hidden
Oh, yeah.
secrets
Come on.
within
There's
and
got to be a
all
room
this
and a
like
tunnel.
stuff.
And
And it's just so
I don't know, man.
Bro in this movie
Yeah, that's the thing.
is like another level.
Yeah.
Like he is
He's coming in hard, right? He's like, I'm going to use all
he's
my Russellness.
if he every once in a while looked at the screen and said,
No.
"You have to believe this happened, dumbass, because I'm telling you,"
Yeah.
like it wouldn't be worse. It would be the same. It's the same content.
That's awesome.
As
I
if
love
he
it.
did that. It's so weirdly.
You didn't quite make me want to see
Anyway,
it.
all right.
Sometimes you do on your worst lists. You make me want to do it. So, all right, two for me is easy. The Flash.
there you go.
Everything you just said, I double down on. Of course, Ezra Miller does good work during the film. The film is just so long. Andy Muschietti is a talented guy who's been riding a wave of doing it and it, sequel, part two. Um, I still think it's very hard to, when you've seen a film, to go back and watch the trailer and try to feel what you felt when you first saw the trailer.
Right.
Phantom Menace is the easiest. When I first saw the trailer, I didn't care. New lightsabers. I'm in.
Right.
You see the film,
Right.
you can never watch the trailer the same way again. Still stand by watching the Flash trailer before seeing the film and thinking it took Andy's hand, but DC's got it. DC's coming after Marvel now, and he's going to take their lunch because the trailer looks absolutely stunning.
Yeah. Right.
Unfortunately, the first 12 or 15 minutes is awful CGI with CGI babies falling out of windows, and they look like rubber, and the dog with the cartoonish face. There definitely is stuff in there that Ezra does well, and it's sometimes playing off himself, which is fine, but it just goes on forever. It just a complete letdown and a complete slog, and then it just unravels and then speedily unravels, no pun intended, as it gets closer to the end, but it just goes on forever. So that was my number two. First film I saw last year was Fast 10.
Yeah, that's mine too.
I mean, that was hands down just watching this. Every once in a while, we will not only see the best film of the year together, but we'll see and sometimes our 1, 2, and 3 are maybe misaligned, but they're the same. Every once in a while, we see the same bad film, and I wonder why the hell did we not walk out of the theater together? But we're
Yeah.
in there, and I think sometimes I'm like, "Oh, I'm not going because he's not going."
Right.
And I guess you're like, well, we didn't come together, but I guess I should stay here and keep him company because he's having fun. I have no idea why we watched the rest of that, except because I've seen 9 of the other franchise
Just
films
to
and I
find out
just got to
how
figure it
bad
out.
it can
Yeah,
go,
now I want to
right?
see. And I think that was the lowest rated film that I gave it. I think that was the lowest rated film or tied. I mean, I think we gave it zeros.
Yeah.
And it was just awful and just not fun, unbelievable. Like Abu Dhabi driving a car out of one window to land into another building. Like, okay,
Right.
I'm having fun. I'm not even a car guy. We say this whenever these films come up. I'm not a car guy,
Right.
but I'm willing to have fun with it. Over the course of 7 years, these people who had a sandwich shop and were fixing Honda Civics are now like super spies.
Right.
Like,
Right.
oh
And
no,
it just gets
man, come
worse and
on.
worse. And the film
Sucks.
before, they were already in space.
They went to
And the
space.
thing
That's
is,
right.
like, not that we need to talk about this movie because
We're in
we've
agreement.
done the podcast on it, whatever.
God,
Go
that
listen to
sucked.
that. And we've gone on too long already. But
Yeah,
back when it was, if you want to talk about the whole series or whatever, but even in like, whatever, 6, 7, 8,
right.
even 8 maybe pushing it, but there was at least like a tiny bit of some redeeming
There were
quality
some good
somewhere,
things. Yeah, there
right?
was some good
There
stuff
was
going on.
something good that happened. There
Yeah.
was at least a few scenes that
Yep.
were interesting. This movie, nothing.
Not a
There is
thing.
nothing that happens. Not only is there
Yeah.
nothing that happens that's good, but we are running so headlong
Yeah.
with nothing happening that's at all believable
Right.
that literally nothing is believable
Right.
anymore in
Right.
this movie, almost like it's a bet.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
somebody behind the
Yeah.
scenes is going, if I find something in this movie that is believable, no
Yeah.
matter what it is,
Right.
you owe me $10,000.
Right.
And dude's like, you're on,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
even like, people like pull up, the villain like pulls up, everyone's already pointing guns at him.
Right.
There's not the slightest chance in hell they wouldn't all just immediately shoot him,
He's
but
invulnerable anyway.
that would be
That would be
believable.
yeah, right.
So
Yeah. Oh
what
boy.
we do instead.
Yeah.
But seriously, absolutely every moment of this movie
Yeah.
it's like I said, it's like it's a bet. It's like
Yeah.
if anything happened, if there's like a person off to the side going
Yeah.
to the post office, right?
Yeah.
They have to like walk in backwards because it's like nothing can happen in
Yeah.
the movie that's in any way believable.
It's created almost a weird pseudo subgenre too, where it's like soap opera movie
Right.
because it really is like Stefano was back from the dead.
Right.
We buried him in Guatemala. Guatemala doesn't exist.
I know.
It's a pet cemetery, and
I
you're
know.
like, "There's a what?" And it's
And
like
then in this one,
all these things just weirdly happen, and alliances come and go, and live and die, and resurrection and rebirth. What?
and then it turns out they're the same person,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
right. I'm like,
he's his own
I'm
brother,
I'm
and
not gonna lie, I'm kind of into this just a little bit. If you were better at it, you'd get me more. But now
right.
you're,
But it's like, the whole plan was to end up on that dam,
yeah.
except that we've already
Oh
shown you that,
man,
like, 5 things that were completely random
right. Had to,
had to happen in
yeah.
order for us to
Oh
get
god,
there.
that's right. I forgot
But
about
then when
that.
you get there, you're like, "See, plan this whole thing,
Yeah,
already have bombs set up."
yeah,
Oh, there's absolutely no way that you
yeah,
could have known.
yeah.
I mean, you're God now.
I
You
remember
can't plan that.
we got to get out of here anyway.
Anyway,
But I
yeah.
remember definitely talking about Skyfall, and I loved it more than you. You didn't hate it, but I remember you just saying one thing that stuck over all the films we've done when Javier Bardem is obviously the super genius and he plans to get caught so he can orchestrate an escape to do these things. And then happened in Dark Knight 2 with the Joker planning to get caught. All the geniuses, all the Hannibal Lecters, they 10 steps ahead. They plan
Right.
these things. And you're like, why can't you just get caught? Why do you have to plan to get caught to tunnel through the security system when you don't need anything there anyway? Why get caught at all? Like, why do these things? And I'm like, well, builds tension. I don't know.
Otherwise, the
Like, and
movie's
it's
too
just one of these
short.
things where you're right. I remember the dam now when you're like, all these things had to happen with godlike precision. If one didn't, nothing could. Well, here we are.
Right.
Told you. You know,
All right. Anyway, we've
gotta
got to
fix
go,
this.
and we've gone way too
Yeah.
long already. That's the worst of the year. I hope we don't.
Today,
I hope we don't get the. No one should make worst of the year.
no, bring them. I
Something like
love
that.
those. Yeah, we
Anyway,
need the
thanks
worst
for
of the year.
tuning in.
Yeah.
Like us, share, subscribe, all that great stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.